Hello, everyone, and welcome. We often think the link between who we are and how we think is pretty straightforward. But what if the way we usually talk about diversity is missing the most important part of the story? Well, today, we're going to unpack that exact idea.
So glad you could join our study group for PP 5361 Theory and Management of Public Service Organizations. We're diving into Chapter 4 of the required text, the Diversity Bonus. It has this incredible framework for thinking about how great teams really work. And honestly, the lessons are crucial. So let's get right into it.
You've definitely heard this before, right? Someone in a meeting says, "Hey, we really need a woman's perspective on this." It sounds good, and it's almost always well-intentioned. But it assumes there's this simple, straight line from an identity, like being a woman, to a specific way of thinking. Today, we're going to challenge that and dig into a much richer and, frankly, more powerful connection. All right, first things first. We have to get our terms straight. The book draws this super important line between identity diversity, which is, who we are, and what it calls cognitive diversity. You can think of cognitive diversity as our mental toolkit or our cognitive repertoire. Let's break down exactly what that means. So on one side, you have identity diversity. These are all the social categories we tend to use: race, gender, age, you name it. And on the other side, you have cognitive diversity. Now, this is about the stuff going on inside our heads, what we know, the frameworks we use to make sense of the world, and how we come up with new ideas. Now, logically, these two things are totally separate, but, and this is the key, our identities play a huge role in shaping our cognitive toolkits. To really get our heads around this, Chapter 4 gives us three really powerful analogies. They help us see identity not as some simple label, but as the complex, layered, and frankly amazing thing it really is. First up, the iceberg. It's a classic for a reason. What you see at first glance, someone's skin color, their gender, that's just the tip. But underneath the water, there's this massive invisible part of who they are. Their values, their education, their ancestry, their social class, all the things that are arguably way more influential in shaping how they see the world. When we only focus on what's visible, we're missing almost the entire picture. Next, picture a person's identity like a timber-framed house. Every part, ancestry, gender, religion, social class, is like a beam in one single interconnected structure. You can't just pull one beam out and study it by itself because the whole thing only works as an interconnected whole. Everything supports everything else. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? A person is not a checklist of identity tags. The real magic, the complexity, comes from how all those pieces fit together to make a unique whole person. The whole is so much greater than the sum of its parts. And finally, there's the cloud. This idea just completely dismantles the whole concept of tokenism. Think about it. Any single category like women or engineers isn't a monolith. It's a huge, diverse cloud of individuals with wildly different experiences and mental toolkits. There's no single woman's perspective. And because of that, no one person can or ever should be asked to speak for their entire group. Okay, so now that we have this much richer, more sophisticated picture of identity, let's connect the dots. How does this actually create value, help us solve tough problems, and make better decisions? This slide just illustrates the shift perfectly. Look at the image on the left. That's the flawed way of thinking, drawing a simple line from one identity tag, like race, to one specific mental tool. But the image on the right, that's the reality. Our entire timber-framed house of identity, the whole bundle, influences our entire cognitive toolkit. It's a bundle to repertoire connection, not a tag to tool one. And here's a great little story from the book to prove it. So after Google bought YouTube, they were totally stumped. About 10% of all user videos were being uploaded upside down. The teams of right-handed engineers couldn't figure it out for the life of them. Then, a left-handed employee saw the problem and instantly knew the answer. Lefties hold their phones differently when they flip them sideways. A simple physical difference, a part of someone's identity, gave them a perspective the rest of the group completely missed. All right, let's try a little thought experiment from the chapter. Imagine you're a casting director. Tom Hanks was supposed to be the everyman hero in your next big movie, but he had to drop out. Who do you pick to replace him? Go ahead, think of a few names right now. So did you think of people like George Clooney, Brad Pitt, maybe Liam Neeson? Those are the most common answers. And do you notice a pattern? Our brains automatically go for what the book calls adjacent possibles. Basically, the most obvious next ideas. And in this case, our unconscious biases can really narrow that search to, well, other white male actors. But what happens if we stop relying on our gut and get systematic about it? Let's just list Tom Hanks' attributes. Now, who else fits that bill? How about Denzel Washington? When you look at the data side by side, the similarities are just uncanny. It's wild. And if you didn't think of him, it's not because you're a bad person, it's because our brains love to take shortcuts. A more deliberate process helps us see right past those mental shortcuts. So here's the real kicker. This isn't just about fairness or checking boxes. This is about performance. It's about actively looking for people whose unique, bundled identities and life experiences let them spot opportunities that are completely invisible to everybody else. The book calls these opportunity bonuses. And the real world is just full of these examples. Dr. Patricia Bath worked in Harlem and at Columbia. That dual perspective let her see a racial disparity and blindness that nobody else saw, and she invented a whole new field. Robert Johnson's deep understanding of television in the African American community, it allowed him to see the massive untapped market for BET. Christy Haubiger felt the lack of media role models for Latinas, so she went out and created Latina Magazine to fill that void. In every case, their identity gave them a lens to see an opportunity others couldn't. And get this, the effect isn't just about adding new ideas into the mix. It's transformative. The mere presence of diverse people actually changes how everyone in the group thinks. In one study with simulated stock markets, the ethnically diverse groups were more careful. They questioned their assumptions more, and they made market prices nearly 60% more accurate. Diversity literally makes everyone sharper. And that leaves us with a final, really important question to think about, especially for those of us in public service and leadership roles. In our own organizations, are we just focused on the tip of the iceberg, just checking off identity boxes? Or are we really trying to build an environment that understands that deep, powerful connection between a person's whole identity and their unique cognitive toolkit? And are we creating the conditions to unlock that incredible potential? Because that is the real diversity bonus.